Hello friends, you are most welcome on my YouTube channel and please don't forget to subscribe my channel. Click on subscribe here. दोस्तों अगर आप मेरे चैनल को सब्सक्राइब करते हैं तो आपको आने वाली वीडियोस का लिंक आसानी से मिलता रहेगा। आशा करता हूं कि चैनल आपकी तैयारी में हेल्पफुल होगा। Good luck friends, now enjoy the video. Hello friends, you are most welcome again on my YouTube channel and today we are going to talk about restoration and enlightenment. And this is between 1660 and up to 1798. As we know that this is 1798 is considered the starting point of the Romantic period. Lyrical ballad got published in this period, in this year. What is restoration? It is a restoration of the monarchy in 1660. Charles II was spending his days of exile in France, and he was a great patron of art and science. James II was there, William and Mary and Anne, Queen Anne was there. Scotland officially united with England in the to form Great Britain, and she outlived of 16 of her children. These are the let me tell you one thing. If you are studying English literature, don't just study literature, go through the political history of the country as well. If I'm studying Hindi literature, I must know that who were the kings and queens of that era, and who patroned the great art and the sciences. So if we are studying English literature, we must study also the history of the political history of Great Britain, because it gives us a fine idea to understand the to understand the terms of that particular age. So these are the kings you should go through: George I, George II, and George III. George III suffered from mental illness, and he who ruled for 60 years, and he did political blunders which resulted in the loss of the American colonies. The Enlightenment. What is Enlightenment? It is a philosophical movement that emphasized natural rights of life, liberty, and prosperity. It is also called Age of Reason. Why we call it Age of Reason? There is a reason behind it. Okay, so we call it Age of Reason because people started asking for reason. They were not fully we can say dependent on religion. There was it is also called the age of compromise. It was compromise between science and religion. That was a transitional period, I can call it, because there were lots of scientific inventions. Let me show you through a website. I found this one, the best thing. If you can see it, let me make it shorter. If you can see here, the first ambulance was the Joseph Broma invents a safety lock. And let me read for you some. Thomas Newton patents the steam engine in this age. Edmund Halley invents the a diving bell. French C. Hoffer patents the fire extinguisher. Gabriel Fahrenheit invents the first thermometer. John Kay invents the first flying shuffle. Here you can see the Samuel Johnson publishes first English dictionary in 1755, and Joseph Priestley invents the carbonated water. So there are lots of inventions. They were there. As you can see here, let me zoom it. Okay, so these are the works, and these were the scientific inventions. As you can see here, we had Sir Isaac Newton. Newton was in that age. Order, balance, logic, and reason, scientific inquiry were applied to everything from farming to politics. So the same thing happens in literature too. Writers, artists, politicians, etc., they gathered in coffee houses to exchange ideas and conduct business and gossip. So this was the key idea about enlightenment. Improvements, living conditions, and changes in ways of life as scientific inventions came into existence. Like steam engine came, so we got new cars and other things. Dramatic advantage in agriculture, breeding advancement, yield larger animals, extreme power, lots of things. So people, I think it is clear that why we call it age of reason. Here we have industrial revolution. So if we are studying English literature, as I have told you that we must study political situations as well and social situations as well. So industrial revolution was there. It changed the way of life for all. Women and children labored long hours with low pay. By the end of the period, a mass of restless, improvised workers had grown. This was the thing. Some were becoming uh, too rich and some were just poor. Samuel Johnson, as I have shown you in that on that website, that dictionary of the English language came into existence first time 1755. It was by Samuel Johnson. It is asked in several question papers. Robert Law's A Short Introduction of English Grammar, based on Latin, were the rules often provided inappropriate for English. Overseas colonization brought new words and increased differences in spoken English, like yoga. They came to India and they brought a word yoga from India. Neoclassicism. We know that it is they stress balance, logic, and sophisticated wit and emotional restraint. The birth of the novel Robinson Crusoe uh, was written, and towards the end of the period, poetry began to reflect themes close to the human heart and the first hints of romanticism. Now, you see, if we are studying English literature and we study just one age, it is always boring to study. As I what I do is I study always on contrast. Like we have Age of Reason, where they stick with rules, but in romanticism they wanted to be free from rules. uh, this is like just we are having the same meal, okay, every day, so we want some change. The same thing happens in this age. We find rules and regulations. They want to be stick to the classicism, and then when they get fed up with this, then there were some more writers, other writers, Coleridge, Wordsworth, and Blake, who came with romanticism. They told people that there must not be too much rules for writing. They want freedom, and that's why they wrote. They follow the nature. But here they follow the nature we see outside, the mountains and the rivers and other things. Satire. 18th century is the golden age of satire. Whenever we talk about of satire, we must remember the 18th century. What satire is, it is a literary technique that mixes criticism with humor. Use laughter as a weapon, usually encourage social reform. Two types of satires we have. Horatian satire, playfully amusing, seeks to correct a voice or foolishness with gentle laughter, and uh, juvenalian satire, darker kind of laughter, bitter, and criticizes corruption and incompetence with scorn and outrage. Comments on comments on and criticize society, makes fun of topic by making it seem ridiculous. New commentators, political cartoonists, comedian, screenwriters, and songwriters we got through this Simpsons. Educational system, sibling rivalry, violence on TV, and sports. Saturday Night Live and Mad TV. These are the find. You can find satire there. How to recognize a satire? Author may clue the reader in that he is writing a satire. Author may cite previous satires, and satiric subject matter and its treatment tells us that this is satire. Concrete, topical, and personal subjects we deal with often alludes to the gossip of the moment, and freshness is important. No one cares 50 or 100 years later. Yeah, styles is too easy to distinguish, contains cruel and dirty words, contains comic words and terms, uses conversational and non-literary language, tries to produce the unexpected, and weapons of satire. If you are writing a satire, if you sit someday with your notes and you want to write down a satire, you will use paradoxes, antithesis, the opposite things are there. Parody you can write down, uh, anticlimax you will see, obscenity you will see, violence you can use, vividness and exaggeration and irony. So the reader feels a mixture of amusement and contempt with satires. So what we studied in this lecture, there are some terms and the things we came to know that restoration and enlightenment was between 1660 and 1798, and we know that 1798 is the starting point of restoration, and this was the just this is 18th century was the restoration is was just before the romanticism. Okay, and if you want to remember, sometimes we forget that which is when. So I suggest you to write down in a series and have a clear idea that what happened in which is. So the restoration, we found the definition of restoration. You can write down in comment box what restoration is. We found that how many kings and queens were there at that time: Charles II, James II, William and Mary and Anne, George I and George first, second and third. All three were there. And what enlightenment we found about that, and we found the fact that 18th century was the age of satire. There were great scientific inventions, changes which changed the lifestyle of the people, and it also brought a big gap between people. Some were too rich and some were working hard for 15 to 16 hours a day. It was too hard. And the best thing we can remember from this is there was a 1755, the dictionary what I have on my table, it got invented at that time. It was composed or written, we can say. Yes, neoclassicism there. Satire, this is age of satire, also golden age for satire. What satire is we studied, and there are two types of satire we came to know, and Horatian satire and Juvenalian satire with this one. So there were some examples. What makes a satire? Satire, we use paradox, antithesis, parody, anticlimax, obscenity and violence, vividness and exaggeration and irony, and so it becomes a satire, a work. Hopefully you liked this one, you learned some terms from this, and you took part in this discussion. Thank you for watching. Bye bye, take care. I'll be coming tomorrow with new topic from 18th century, because I am studying 18th century, so I'm making the things and discussing with you all the same is 18th century. Okay, bye bye, and please do share this video with everyone so that it can help me.